You're listening to XVGM Radio. Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Justin.
And I'm Mike.
And this is episode 95. We're taking a bit of a spotlight on the PS2 and the PSP.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I love the PS2 and I love the PSP. So there's great games, great music. This one, I don't even know how we got started trying to figure this one out. I think it was like one of those things where we're like, well, we like the PS2, but we don't want to just focus on the PS2. And then we were like, well, there's also the PSP, but we don't want to just focus on the PSP. So let's just do a weird, like, hodgepodge, like, Thanksgiving combo of the two.
I think it had a bit to do with the fact that they're both Red Book audio systems. So like, yes. we don't really have much to focus on as far as like sound chips and stuff go.
PS2 came out in 2000 in Japan. Came out, I believe, in 2001 here, if I recall, or maybe late 2000. But the PSP came out later than that.
I think it's just because like that whole era is a blur to me. It's that was college, so
yeah, right. I know. The PSP came out in Japan in 2004, late 2004, like for the holiday rush, and then in North America it came out in March 24th, 2005, okay. And in most other countries it came out March, except for PAL territories like Europe, Australia. There it came out September 1st, 2005.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was about 4 years afterwards, and the games for the most part were very similar. Like this was like one of the first times that you were seeing like, games that were on a modern format getting ported, downported to the PSP.
Right.
But getting downported in a way that they don't need to be completely redesigned, or that they're losing their color, or like the Game Boy from the NES or anything like that. This was like the first time that a handheld felt like it could almost compete with the consoles, in a way, definitely there were games that were like way lower on the scale of things, but overall I think that the PSP was a really cool system that Sony put out, and of course it didn't do nearly as well as the DS did.
Right, yeah. Those came out pretty close together, the DS and the PSP, because I remember I had both of them.
Yeah, the DS came out in 2004, so a full year prior in North America, and in December of 2004 it came out in Japan. PlayStation 2 completely dominated the GameCube, one of the most successful consoles ever released.
Yeah. I mean, the Xbox, I feel like I remember being fairly popular as well. I mean, we had Halo and Halo 2 and stuff. But yeah, no, almost everybody I know had a PS2. I know I had one. Almost everybody in my dorm had one.
Overall, the Xbox and GameCube played second fiddle to the PS2.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get a PS2 until maybe about 2003, I think it was. I felt like I was like the mid-range as far as the life cycle of the console goes, as far as when games were coming out for it. But I loved my PS2. Just a phenomenal console with some great games and some great tunes. Like this song that we just heard.
Yeah. We came in on one of the games that I thought was kind of formative for the PS2. Katamari Damacy. The track was Fugue number 7777.
Hashtag 7777, you mean?
Sure, we can call it that too. Fugue pound 7777. If
yeah, there you go. Really showing your age there.
Yeah, just a little. But yeah, I mean, this game, I can't think of anybody who doesn't know about Katamari. I mean, it's spanned, the series has spanned multiple consoles from, the PS2 to the Xbox, or at least the Xbox 360,
PSP.
PS3, PSP, mobile. It was on Android. I remember having a Katamari tap game, and it's so simple. I mean, you're a character. You're this tiny guy, little guy named the Prince, and the Katamari is this ball that sticks to things. And your dad, the king of the cosmos, broke the universe, and you have to fix it by rolling things up and and letting him blow things up to create stars.
I hated the king.
Oh, I hated him. He was such a jerk.
He was. Like, nothing was ever good enough for him. Like, you'd give him this amazing combination of all these things that you had picked up that you rolled up into a giant ball. And he would just be like, you did your best, which is not really that impressive. And then, you would get sent away to do the next level.
Yeah. Well, the worst is if you did well, like if you maxed out the level, he went the opposite direction. He was like, oh, you're really what was it? Like he'd make fun of you for going overboard. He was like, "Oh, you're really trying to prove yourself, huh?" Or like, "You seems like you got something to prove." I'm like, "Up yours, you jerk,
you pompous pomp, you pomp and circumstance." Yeah, this is one of those transformative games that I really feel like anybody could play. I look to my own example of that because when I was in college, I remember I was dating this girl and I was working at this game store and I bought this game just on a whim. It was $20, brand new. It had just come out and it was $20. And, I was like, I don't know. This cover looks weird. And that was during that era where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy it. Whatever. It's $20. Why not? So I bought it, played it, loved it, right? So I was going out with this girl at the time. She saw me play the game, and she's like, hey, why don't you bring the game over a friend of ours' house? And none of these people were gamers. They were all big music fans, but not gamers. And so I was like, hey, you guys want to play this? And they're like, what is this nerd showing us? And everybody loved it. It was like...
It's such a weird, fun little game. I had similar experiences. A lot of my friends that were not really gamers, just fell in love with this game. It's so it's cute, it's quirky, and it's
really accessible.
I was just gonna say, it's not easy by any means, but it's not hard to pick up and figure out. You're just using the two joysticks, and that's really kind of it.
Yeah, pretty much. This song, though, by Asuka Sakai, Fugue, hashtag 7777. I like this song. I mean, this is the opening song, if I recall, for the game.
I think so.
It's one of the opening songs, at least, where you're talking to the king, and you're the prince down, this little green-colored prince.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of you hear this song that's very pompous, bo, 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 bo. And it really kind of threw me back to Clockwork Orange. A lot of inspiration from the Clockwork Orange soundtrack, where there's a very classical, musical-oriented piece, all done through voiceover or voice
synthesized vocals too.
Yeah, synthesized. Vocals,
it's not an actual choir. It's like I wouldn't say a Casio keyboard.
Almost like
vocals,
a Moog.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So that's immediately what I thought of when I heard this. I was like, whoa, Clockwork Orange much? So, but it fits. And the rest of the music in this game is phenomenal. It's all, for the most part, a weird mix of Japanese and electronic. There's a lot of Japanese vocals in there. It's great. It's such a fun game with a great soundtrack. So you really can't go wrong playing Katamari.
Yeah, no, agreed. And Asuka Sakai has been around since the 90s. The first audio credit is for R4 Ridge Racer Type 4 in 1998. They did original music for that. Mr. Driller G in 2001, they provided Flute. Klonoa 2, Lunate's Veil in 2001 as well. They did the music on that. Ridge Racer in 2004, background music composers and remixers. And then a whole bunch of the Katamari stuff. Katamari Damacy in 2004, We Love Katamari in 2005, Katamari Forever in 2009, and Katamari Damacy Reroll in 2018 is actually their last credit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's the most recent game that came out, if I recall. That was a remake of the first game.
Oh, is it? I thought that was the...
I believe it's a remake.
Yeah. It's on the Switch, actually. Well, yeah. I mean, it's on a bunch of stuff, but I think they remade the original for the Switch.
Cool. So we're going to be going back and forth between the PlayStation 2, the PSP, and games that appeared on both the PS2 and PSP. So just so you guys have kind of a heads up as to what we're going to be doing. So this will be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to your next pick because it's from another really great game. I
can't remember if we played anything. No, I think we played something from a different Mega Man related PSP game. This is going to be Mega Man Powered Up, though. The PSP remake of the original Mega Man. This came out in the PSP in 2006, and this is Time Man Stage by Toshihiko Horiyama. Welcome back. That was Time Man Stage from Mega Man Powered Up, the 2006 PSP release, and that was composed by Toshihiko Horiyama.
Yeah, I don't know. That one doesn't give me a Mega Man vibe, but I think part of that is because Mega Man music is so burned in my brain that it has to be 8-bit sounding. That like any Mega Man music that isn't, I'm like, wait, is this Mega Man? This kind of gives me a Castlevania vibe, actually.
I can see that. It's like kind of like a tower or like a courtyard or something.
Yeah, like I get with the drums, especially the main melody, the da 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 da, like that just kind of. I think the call and answer stuff from a lot of Mega Man music is there, but it's only there sporadically. Whereas this just kind of feels more like, especially with those drums, it feels more like a Castlevania track, like something you'd hear on like Symphony of the Night, or maybe something you'd hear on like one of the GBA games or something like that. It's not bad. It's a great track. It just, I don't know what it is. Again, it's got to be that sound style, that sound font.
Yeah, no, I can get that. I mean, I think I stray from that a little bit just because of, I lump Mega Man and Mega Man X all together. Everything from X4 onwards is not like 8-bit or 16-bit, so there's a lot of blending that goes on for me. But I do see what you mean. But for what this is, for it being a Mega Man remake on a modern at the time console, I thought it was really good. And I mean, a lot of the other tracks, I mean, I specifically didn't play a track that was kind of a remake of an original track from the original Mega Man because I wanted to showcase specifically the new music that was brought into this. So, like, just to touch on that a little bit, you know, the original Mega Man had Cutman, Gutsman, Iceman, Bombman, Fireman, and Electman. And then for Powered Up, because they wanted to make it match, you know, all of the other Mega Man games where there were 8 Robot Masters, they added Time Man and Oil Man.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that was because they'd planned to do Mega Man Powered Up for more than just the original game, but it didn't sell all that well, and so they scrapped Powered Up 2, which upset me because I really enjoyed Powered Up. The track itself, I don't know, like I said, I feel like it's a good like modernization of some Mega Man music, but kind of bringing their own thing to it. Like, this isn't a track that existed anywhere else in Mega Man's history.
This game had a little bit of controversy too. I don't know. Do you remember what happened with Oil Man?
No.
So the Robot Master that they added, you had already mentioned Time Man, which was this track, but Oil Man was the other one. And they made his design with big pink lips and black skin.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he looked like a 1920s, like, you know, African American caricature.
Yeah. The blackface characters. Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember when that happened, and I remember like tons of people were super angry, and justifiably so. What they ended up doing was changing the character's skin to blue and gave him yellow lips in the U.S. So if you look up the character art for Oil Man, he looks different in the U.S.
Yeah, I missed that controversy, and I guess that might actually be part of the reason why it didn't sell well, is that people were upset that happened in the first place. And then I'm sure there was also a contingent of people that were upset that they changed it or whatever, you know, stupid thing that people get upset over. No, that's wild. Yeah, I didn't even know about it because by the time it came out over here, it was already changed. Things are a little bit different in Japan. I don't know if you ever watched Dragon Ball Z, if you remember Mr. Popo.
Yep.
That was another, and they didn't even change his coloration in America until later. I mean, they changed him to his skin to purple, and that was really it. Like they just changed his skin color to purple, so it was still kind of questionable, but. I mean, they don't really have that same history in Japan that we have here, so it's one of those things where it's very easy for them to overlook it. But when you're on a global stage, you gotta think about those things.
So this song though was pretty fun. I'm trying to remember the rest of the music, but I remember it all being very lighthearted and cutesy sounding.
Yes,
like this.
Definitely.
So for like the rest of the game, I think they added the additional 2 bosses just to, you know, kind of make things comparable to like the rest of the franchise.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I mean the cute music goes along with the cute art style, because everything in this game is chibi or super deformed. So like Mega Man, Roll, all the Robot Masters, everything has got this like, you know, super deformed type of style to it. So they definitely made the music to match that kind of cuteness.
Apparently, the chibi style was going to be used in the original Mega Man game, like the very first NES one, but they couldn't do it because of the hardware. Kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. That's unfortunate.
But yeah, this game is cool. It's got a lot of additional features that they put in the game as well. Like I think there was like a level editor.
I was just gonna say that's what I was thinking of when I introduced this. We did play a track from this game, but it was on a Patreon episode. I played one of the level editor themes.
Ah, yes.
I think it was actually a holiday episode because there was like a Christmas bells version of one of the songs.
But yeah, it's a shame that they never made any more of these. I really like the art style. All right, so Toshihiko Horiyama.
Yeah, so Toshihiko Horiyama started out in Mega Man X back in 1993. They were a music composer, and they did a lot of Mega Man stuff and Phoenix Wright music.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so to touch on some of the non-Mega Man stuff, just because there's only a few things here. Demon's Crest 1994, they were uncredited as music composer in that. Onimusha Warlords and Onimusha 2 in 2001-2002 respectively, they did music composition and sound design. Resident Evil Revelations 2 in 2015, they did sound design, and Resident Evil 3 in 2020, the remake that did sound design. Everything else, Mega Man 7, Mega Man X4, Misadventures of Tron-Bon, Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright, Dual Destinies, they did music on all of those. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm going to move into a game that came out on both the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation Portable. Mm-hmm. This is Ys 6, also known as Ys, the Ark of Nepishtim. This came out in 2005 on the PS2 and 2006 on the PSP. This track is called Release of the Far West Ocean, and as expected, it's a banger because it's Ys. This was by Hayato Sonoda and Wataru Ishibashi. Hey, you're back, and that was Ys 6, also known as Ys, the Ark of Nepishtim. That track was called Release of the Far West Ocean. It was composed by Hayato Sonoda and Wataru Ishibashi, and it came out on both the PlayStation 2 in 2005 and the PlayStation Portable in 2006. I want to get your opinion on this one before we go into details about the game itself. What do you think of that track?
So I feel like we're probably going to we're going to compare every track to a Castlevania track until we get to a Castlevania track.
Yeah.
The opening of that, like, I was just like, oh wow, this could absolutely be like a Castlevania, like, you know, level 1 or opening track to a Castlevania game. As it went on,
yes and no.
As it went on, I felt like it definitely got away from that. But I mean, like, the opening of this track felt like kind of like an opening Castlevania track. I thought it was really cool. Like, it was a very uplifting track overall. Like, it felt like it was either like a journey or, you know, something good is happening. And the quality of the synth, like the synth sound of that guitar, I thought was really cool. Like, it doesn't sound to me like a real guitar. There's something very soft about it, but there's something about the quality that I really liked. It just, I think it was the softness of the tone.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't sound like a real guitar. It sounds almost MIDI, but like beefed up MIDI.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You're not alone. A lot of people think that Ys music sounds a lot like Castlevania. I think to a point it was very much influenced just by that whole Baroque era.
Right.
Has that very similar type of Baroque scale, that you know, kind of up and down on the keys. But I do think that the track kind of breaks into its own kind of sound to sound like the franchise that it's playing off of once it gets into that da 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 da.
Yeah. Yep.
That to me sounds more Ys, less Castlevania in a lot of ways. But I mean, you know, 6 and half. What's the phrase?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. Exactly. Yeah, this game, it did originally come out on Windows back in 2003. This is when I really think Falcom was just like, yo, let's just make new games and not port them to console. And so what they ended up doing was putting this one out exclusive to Windows initially, and then it became a mobile game, like a Japan-only mobile game, so a very inferior version of the original game. And then Konami got a hold of the rights on PS2, and they were like, you know what? Let's put this out. So that's the first Ys game that came out in the U.S. since Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys.
Oh, wow. So we never got 4 and 5?
Never got 4 and 5. Well, we did get, I think it's 4, as a remade game called Memories of either Calcutta or Salsetta. I can't remember the name of that one, but yeah, so that did come out on the Vita, and then it got re-released on the PS4.
Okay.
So we did technically sort of get it. But no, 4's original game and 5's original game have never been ported outside of their original formats, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, hearing all that, I was gonna ask earlier, if we knew what the differences were between the PSP and the PS2 version, but hearing all this, I would imagine that there is minimal, if any, differences. They're likely the exact same game.
So just to touch on the PS2 version first, and then we can talk about the differences. Yeah. So Konami ended up deciding, hey, if we're going to put this out, we're going to beef it up. So they added new full motion video to the game. Ooh. But the voice acting for the Japanese version of the game, it can be selected in the US version. The PAL version, all of the audio was removed for the dialogue.
Including the Japanese?
So there is English voice acting for the PS2 US release, and you can select the Japanese as an additional option in the NTSC, US version. Japanese version, I believe, just had the Japanese. Right. But PAL had the Japanese voice acting removed. I'm not sure if it had the English version removed.
Oh, wow.
For the English voice acting.
Huh.
That I don't know. But anyways, for the differences, they did remove the blood and the gore from the game for the consoles. Yeah, so that was cut. And then as far as the PSP version goes, it's weird. The PSP version added the blood and gore back in.
I was going to say.
Which is like, okay. Why they decided a year later to put it back in, I have no idea. But the European and North American versions have additional fetch quests that you can unlock, like mini games and like different pictures and stuff in the game. And there's no voice acting in the PSP version.
Ah, okay.
That's where they saved. And I mean, like all those like East games that came out on the PSP, they all got these like super beefed up collector's edition options. I own the one for Oath and Felghana, which is a remake of 3. Mm-hmm. But I don't own any of the others. They're like stupid expensive now. They're like over $200 to get those.
Damn.
Yeah. So I don't know. Great song. Just really high energy. Exactly what an East song should be. We could thank Hayato, Sonoda, and Wataru Ishibashi. Hayato started off with Brandish 4. So all these guys are going to be Falcom composers. Mm-hmm. He moved on to East, Oath, and Felghana several years later. He did some games in between, but he's mostly been with the East series, East 1 and 2 Chronicles, which is a remake of 1 and 2, Memories of Calcutta, East 8, Lacrimosa of Dana in 2017, and East 9, Monstrum Nox, which is his final game. He also worked on a good chunk of the Legend of Heroes Trails series, Trails of Cold Steel, the first game, the third game, the Trails of Cold Steel 4, 2. So yeah, he's pretty much like a Falcom dude. Wataru Ishibashi, though, started off with Zwei in 2004 as part of the JDK sound team, and then did this game, and then after that did Xanadu next, and then Super Dragon Ball Z in 2006, which is actually not a Falcom game. That was developed by Arika. So he must have left at some point, Falcom. The plot on this one for East 6, it's silly because it starts off exactly like the later games, like East 8, where you're on a boat crashes, Adol is swept off of it, and he's trying to rescue somebody, and
Adol needs to find a new captain for his ships. He crashes in every game.
Yeah, like this man should not be allowed on boats, like point blank. Ever. Like, why? Like, at some point in time, you got to be like, all right, Adol, how about instead of taking a boat, how about we not? How about we just stay here? But no, he's an adventurer. He's got to go on a boat, whatever. He gets found by these girls who are nieces of the local chief of the Red Ha village. Not Red Hot, like the fire sauce, the Red Ha. So their names are Olha and Isha, and they are the daughters of his brother that died while battling a fellow Red Ha against the Wandering Calamity. So the girls take Adol to the village. Adol hears them start to, he falls asleep, he passes out, he wakes up, and then he passes out again, he's exhausted, he's tired, and then at that point in time, that's when his adventure starts. It's an East game. If you've played any East games, you've played, I will say that this one continued the more like top-down kind of, side-ish top-down. I don't know. It's not isometric, but it's like side top-down. I don't even know how to explain it, but
3/4 view?
Maybe, I don't know. But all the locations that you're going through are all mostly like 3D-ish.
No need.
Yeah, it's a great game. It's a lot of fun, so I recommend it.
Nice.
I'd probably get it on the PS2.
Yeah, it sounds like the superior version.
yeah. Even though, you lose the gore and the blood, who cares? It's,
I mean,
not a big deal.
It's still a good game. Speaking of good games, Janine is telling me that we have a caller on the line.
Oh, cool. All right, we'll send them on through.
All right. Janine, want to send that over? XVGM Radio? Who is this and what can we play for you? Oh, that's probably a first, maybe a second. Hold on, just a moment. Janine, you want to turn your mic on over there? Yeah. No, not that button. Yeah, that one. All right. There you go. You're on.
Hey girl, it's your old pal Medusa. How's it hanging? Well, I'm calling just to let you know that our pal Dracula really wants to date your friend Sammy. I know, right? It's crazy. Well, I'm gonna text you Dracula's phone number, and you can give that to Sam. I don't know why I couldn't text this to you, but oh well.
Yeah, I think we gotta wrap this up. We actually are doing a show. Do you have any VGM you'd like to hear?
What? Oh, sure. Play some Castlevania. Lament of Innocence, perhaps. PlayStation 2, is the console that came out on.
That works. We actually were just talking about Castlevania music and how we need to play a Castlevania track so we can stop talking about Castlevania tracks. So let's do Pagoda of the Misty Moon by Michiru Yamane.
Great. Okay, so Janine, I'll see you next week at Bingo.
All right. Thanks for calling. Bye now. Okay.
Wow. All right then.
Well, I guess we got a Castlevania track, so let's play Castlevania Lament of Innocence, the 2003 PS2 game. Pagoda of the Misty Moon is the track we'll play by Michiru Yamane. All right, welcome back to our PSP/PS2 focused episode. That was Castlevania Lament of Innocence. Came out on the PS2 in 2003. The track was Pagoda of the Misty Moon, and it was composed by Michiru Yamane.
I mean, I think you know how I feel about this one.
Oh, I think I know.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh,
yeah. I enjoyed this track. I think I enjoyed it a lot more in game. I definitely remember it did not feel as silly in context of the game as it did just listening to the track by itself. And I think that's mostly because just those synthesized vocals, again, where, going back to the Katamari Damacy track, with the synthesized vocals, they always sound a little goofy. And in this one, like as soon as they came in, I was like, oh man, those are fun. But I really enjoyed the kind of the tribal drums that they had going on. It was it felt really kind of dark, and it stayed through the entire track, which I thought gave it a little bit of pep.
I agree. I really like the drums, but man, the that choir chorus sound, it's so close to being the Great Mighty Pooh from Conquer. All I could hear is oh, and then him pulling corn out of his mouth and throwing it at you or whatever. So it was so borderline close to that. So
that's fair.
It's hard to listen to that track without rolling your eyes a little bit. It's not
absolutely
bad. It's not my favorite on Lament of Innocence, but it's still I think I agree with you that it's better in the moment than in the game itself.
Yeah. This game, I've played through it once. I've gone back to play to kind of like start it up again a couple times, and I've never completed it another time. But it's an interesting game. This is the one that's supposed to be like the origin of the vampire killer and the origin of the Belmont curse and all that stuff.
Right.
So you're playing as, who is it? Leon Belmont?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this game takes a lot of inspiration from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right.
What they did was, instead of specifically sticking to the Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Tepish lore, so to speak, they made him this character named Matthias Konkvist.
That's right.
There is some kind of loop back to real-time Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Tepish, if I recall. But it's a little muddy. Like, I just don't remember 100%. But yeah, the whole point is Leon is friends with this guy Matthias. And he tells him that Leon's girlfriend or whatever, Sarah, is being held by this vampire named Walter Bernhard.
That's right, yep.
You end up meeting this character named Ronaldo Gandolfi, who basically creates the vampire killer with Sarah's soul, because you end up finding out that Sarah's turning into a vampire, so Leon has to basically sacrifice her soul with Ronaldo to make this whip. So that's kind of how the vampire killer started, how it was created. This game, I have a love-hate relationship with it because I like the game in and of itself, but I feel like a lot of the corridors and a lot of the areas feel very samey, Whereas Castlevania 64, I think, did a better job of the 3D environments and 3D aspects of really branching Castlevania out into 3D, whereas this is much more of a return to form to, like, what would 2D Castlevania of the original games look like if it was 3D, that sort of thing. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it's less a 3D adventure and more a 3D platformer in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't
know.
I do remember a lot of platforming. This one and what was the other one? Curse of Darkness, I think.
Yeah. Curse of Darkness is a much better game than Lament, in my opinion.
That's I hear that from a lot of people. I still have to really give Curse of Darkness a try. I just never really had a good opportunity for it.
It's great.
So
it's really good. and again, another PlayStation 2 exclusive that I believe Lament and Curse have never been ported. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. No, Curse did get a secondary release on the Xbox, on the original Xbox.
Oh yeah, because I was going to say I thought Curse came out on the Xbox originally.
It did. Yeah, I misspoke. But yeah, both of these games never left this generation, so to speak.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting. But yeah, this game also, Lament of Innocence, destroys the Sonya Belmont legacy. So back in like whatever it was, like 97, 98, Konami was like, all right, we're going to create the actual origin story of Castlevania. So they made Sonya Belmont, the very first Belmont, which, a lot of canon nerds like myself, will point at it and be like, well, it's not really the beginning of Castlevania because, Castlevania 3 is, and there's a lot of discrepancy, going back and forth depending on the ending that you get in Legends. But I don't know. We could be here all day talking about Castlevania if you don't stop me. So
that's fair. That's fair. So let's move on real quickly just to Michiru Yamane. I mean, we've talked about Michiru a bunch. Most famously for this thing anyway. Most famously Symphony of the Night, but 1997. But tons of stuff. Music composition in Motocross Maniacs in 1989 is the first music credit that I see here. So, all the way back to the 80s, a lot of Ganbare Goemon in the 80s and the 90s, Sparkster in 94, tons of Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow in 2003, Castlevania The Dracula X Chronicles, obviously that was another PSP release that took, what was it, Rondo of Blood and Something in the Night, I think, together.
Yes.
Yep. Parodius Portable, and we'll just say most recently in 2019 they did Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Yes, yeah. Sword of Theory is one that gets by a lot of people. That's a Japanese exclusive that takes Wizard of Oz characters and like throws the concept on its side, makes it super Japanese and very not Japanese, but like Japanese developer oriented, so to speak. It's a really cool game. Not an amazing game, but a really neat game, and that's got Michiru Yamane music in it as well. Nice. Yeah.
All right, what do you got coming up for us next year?
Yeah, we're gonna go PSP. Super obscure stuff here. This is a game called Puzzle Guzzle. I tried to find something really specific to the PSP that isn't like an action game. So we've been talking a lot about action games. I mean, we did Katamari, but this is a puzzle game that came out exclusively on the PSP in 2008. This track is called Track 7. Doesn't really have a name, but it's the 7th track on the soundtrack. And it's by JoJoGa.
All right.
Welcome back. That was Puzzle Guzzle.
Aw.
Such a stupid name.
Yo, go guzzle that puzzle.
Yo, I'm gonna make you guzzle that puzzle.
Oh,
That
Lord.
was a PSP 2008. This was track 7 by JoJoGa. I could not find any information about JoJoGa. None. I will say that this is an IREM game. So it's developed by IREM, and it was published in North America by Age Tech. If you saw this and you saw the box art, you would be like, wow, this is a very unforgettable shovelware puzzle game. But the fact that it was developed by IREM, I mean, they're no slouch when it comes to fun games, being, the people that made good games. Because they're IREM.
Well said.
Yeah. Yes, I try.
Yeah. So did JoJoGa do the entire soundtrack, or was it a soundtrack by multiple artists?
I believe that JoJoGa did the full soundtrack. Okay. It was very difficult to find any credits for this game. So,
okay.
Yeah. But this is a puzzle game, if you couldn't guess. And the whole point of the game is there's these blocks that fall, and the blocks have images on them. And the images are like shapes, basically. You'll get like triangles, half triangles, you may even get full squares. And what you're supposed to do is kind of rotate them to make shapes, like specific shapes. So your goal is to get diagonal shapes onto the square board, and your opponent, whoever you're playing against, is throwing attacks at you that make you kind of like second guess what you're doing. So it's very fast paced. It's a lot of fun, or at least it looks like it's a lot of fun. I haven't played this one yet, but this music is so good. I love the, kind of trippy house beat that has like a little bit of a jazz influence in there too, with that saxophone kind of sprinkled in. It's really cool.
Yeah, I did like when the saxophone came in. I will say the track itself, I kind of found a little boring, but that's also like, this is another one of those things, like, out of context, the music isn't always quite as good as it is in the game, because when it's a puzzle game, you don't really want the music to distract you that much from the game. This feels like music that will kind of keep you focused in the game, which is great for a puzzle game. Just listening to it kind of a la carte like this, that main beat, that da 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 da, it was good, but like, it was very overpowering, and by like halfway through, like, the other stuff that came in was great and it added flavor, but I was just like trying not to nod off.
That's in a way kind of the point of the track, though. In all fairness, it's a very laid back song. It reminds me of like a lot of the puzzle games that came out, during, the Super Nintendo, like, Tetris Attack is a good example. That has very laid back music as well. So in the context of it being a puzzle game, I thought this was great. In terms of it on its own, standing on its own, I think this is a good song to listen to, like, if you're just trying to relax.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't want to seem like I'm trash talking the song, because I did enjoy it. Just like in the context of our show and what we were doing, I was like, not something that I would have thought to listen to, but it's definitely something I'm going to add to my like relaxation playlist, or like my go to sleep playlist and stuff. Because it's a good track. Like, I enjoy the music.
Yeah, it's definitely a good chill track.
Yes,
absolutely. Yes. Which is funny because we started off the show with a laid back kind of track like this in a way, and then kind of followed it up with another, kind of like happy, fun track. And then we went hard with that East track.
Oh, yeah.
And then we kind of followed it up with a very unique track with that Lament of Innocence track. So going back to a much more subdued kind of song is probably not the best way to go about this, but I felt like this was the right time to play it, personally. Yeah,
no, I agree. And I think it'll actually go pretty well into the next track, which I won't jump the gun on here, because I feel like you might still have some things to talk about, but
not really. You can do it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So
Puzzle is neat. It's cool. I'll have to pick it up just for the sake of, it being an IREM game, and most likely it'll be stupid expensive, and then I want to try to get it then, because it's still pretty cheap. You could buy it on Amazon loose for like $2. You could also buy Justin Loose on Amazon for $2 though. So
I was gonna say something. I was like, nah, it's inappropriate. Anyway, my next pick here is another puzzle game. It's called LocoRoco. This is also a PSP game. Came out in 2006. The track is Doda Doda, The Snow Has Fallen, LocoRoco Red and Pink version. And it's composed by Nobuyuki Shimizu and Kemmei Adachi.
All the hits. All the bits. XVGM Radio.
All right. Thanks for listening. That has been LocoRoco, the puzzle game for the PSP in 2006. The name of the track was Doda Doda, The Snow Has Fallen, LocoRoco Red and Pink version, and it was composed by Nobuyuki Shimizu and Kemmei Adachi.
Hey, why didn't you also mention the featured vocalist, Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Oh, I thought it was Theodore, actually.
Oh, maybe it was Simon. You know, it wasn't. It wasn't Dave.
It wasn't Dave, nor was it the Chipettes.
No. So distracting. That was so distracting.
Fair enough. See, what I found distracting in that one was the person kind of like whispering in my left ear. I don't know if you got everything in stereo. If you didn't hear somebody whispering specifically in your left ear during that song, then I guess the stereo effects are lost over the Zoom connection. But yeah.
I've never played LocoRoco.
No? It's a neat game. I thought it was a really cool concept when it came out. For those who haven't played LocoRoco, the game focuses on these beings on this world. I think they're actually called LocoRocos. They have these friends, the Miu or Mui Muis. LocoRoco are these like blob kind of things. They're usually pretty roundish, but they're technically amorphous, and there are certain characters in the game that can make them, squares or triangles, so they can take on different shapes. But they lived in peace on this world with the Mui Muis and just like taking care of the planet and the environment. And then they're invaded by this group called the Moja Troop. and they just want to take over the planet. And so you as the player are actually playing as the planet, and what you're doing is you're rotating the environment to make these creatures kind of fall and move in certain ways to either get them away from the Moja troop or to get them to a point where they can defeat the Moja troop. Because they don't know what they're doing. Like they not that they're brainless, but they've lived a peaceful life. They don't understand the concept of fighting. So you're the planet trying to help move them around to defeat the Moja troop.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. There's more to it than this, but I feel like I remember the controls really just being the shoulder buttons. Right shoulder rotates things clockwise, left shoulder rotates things counterclockwise, and that's really it. You just need to get them through the environment.
Yeah, so the PSP, just to talk on the different revisions of the hardware, there was the original version that came out, which I believe was called the 1000, and then they came out with the PSP 2000, and then the PSP 3000. From what I understand, the 3000 is the best version of it.
Yeah.
Then they came out with the PSP Go, which is garbage.
Yeah, from what I remember, the PSP Go was it was intended to just download the games and play the games off the SD card or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's why they give you 16 gigabytes of memory. Yep. It doesn't have a UMD drive, so that's how they kind of got rid of that. And then there was also the PSP Street, which came out in 2011, or at least it was announced in 2011. And that was a much more budget-focused version of the PSP. There's no Wi-Fi. It has kind of like a matte finish, very similar to the slim PS3. It has mono speakers. Like, it's a really low-budget thing that only came out in Europe, PAL territories, in 2012.
Yeah, the thing that bothered me about the PSP revisions, I remember, because I had the original one, the 1000, and it was good for a lot of stuff, but as time went on, they made improvements to the hardware of the PSP, so much so that some of the games that came out later, like Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, you could really only play it on the PSP 3000. It would run on all of them, but it would run like garbage on the 1000, and it would not run very well on the 2000. Like, you had to have a 3000 if you wanted to play that game.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah. All right. Before we move on, just want to talk about the music and the composers. So just to allay any suspicions that anybody might have, the language used in the music on this game, and particularly in that track, but throughout the game, is a fictional language. It is not Japanese. It is not anything. It was created by Kuono, who was the creator of the game. Tsutomu Kuono is the creator of the LocoRoco game series. And so he created a fictional language and had the entire soundtrack sung in that language to just sound cool, really. He also didn't want to alienate foreign players by using Japanese music or doing anything too quote-unquote Japanese. I thought that was kind of neat. But the composers on this, Nobuyuki Shimizu, pretty short resume, started out with doing arrangement on Yumimi Mix in 1993, and then did arrangement on Chojiku Yosai Macross I Oboete Imasuka, and so that's related, I believe, to the Macross or Robotech series. Then did sound composition on Wild Arms 4 in 2005, LocoRoco in 2006, LocoRoco 2 in 2008, and then LocoRoco Remastered in 2017. That's when the PS4 remake came out. It was 2017. And then Kemmei Adachi has a slightly larger resume. Started out doing sound effects in Legend of Legaia in 1998. First music composition I see here is Bombastic in 2003. Ape Escape Academy in 2004. Patapon, speaking of Patapon, they did voices and chorus in that. They also did the music in LocoRoco 2, the sequel to this. Continued with Patapon 2 and 3 in 2009, 2011. Gran Turismo 6 in 2013, and most recently did music in Everybody's Golf in 2017.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, we're going to jump back in the PS2. We're going to play something from a game called Nightshade, not the NES game, also called Nightshade. This came out in 2003, and this, I believe, was also exclusive to the PlayStation 2. This track is called Skyscraper Tokyo, and it's by Fumi Kumatani, Tomonori Sawada, Keiichi Sugiyama, and Yutaka Minobe. Welcome back to XVGM Radio's PS2 PSP post-Thanksgiving Day special smorgasbord leftovers. So that was Nightshade, the PlayStation 2 exclusive that came out in 2003. The track was composed by Fumi Kumatani, Tomonori Sawada, Keiichi Sugiyama, and Yutaka Minobe, and it was called Skyscraper Tokyo. What are your thoughts on this one? I'm curious.
Very driving. So the name of the track kind of colored my thoughts a little bit. I definitely will say, like, I got kind of a, going up a very, very tall building that was, like, partially unfinished, like maybe something out of, like, Final Fantasy VII and or Final Fantasy VII Remake had some scenes like this where you were ascending a very large tower and there were large sections that were, like, unfinished and open to the outside. And it felt like there was a sense of urgency. So, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it gave me Final Fantasy VII feels.
Okay. So one of the things I really like about it is I do like the driving force, but I feel like this would have been a better racing game track than an action game. This is like a hack and slash game. And so it just feels like a really good song that would be perfect in a racing game. You've got that, like, dun, 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 dun. And it's everything in the song is pushing you forward, just like you were saying. But I really like that guitar, that strumming kind of guitar. And then you've got a very, like, proficient bass kind of in the background, the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, kind of climbing up and down the neck of the bass guitar. There's this weird sound effect that they threw in that you probably heard, where it was like it was like a
revving,
and then it would be like almost like it's rotating. It was like really subtle in the background, but like it's really distracting. I don't know why they threw that in, but it just doesn't fit with the track, in my opinion.
I can't say that I picked up on that.
Yeah, it's right before the loop for the most part. This is also a really short track, but this game's cool. It is a follow-up to the Shinobi reboot PS2 game. You're playing as a character named Hibana. It's basically, sexy female ninja. This is the best way to put it. It's developed by Sega WoW, and I believe they were also called the Sega AM Research and Development No. 1, or also known as Overworks. Yeah, this one is pretty cool. It's more of a futuristic Shinobi in a way. There are parts where, you're going through modern day era type stuff like skyscrapers, which that's what this level is. You're going through buildings and stuff like that. The levels are visually spectacular, whereas Shinobi, not so much. There's a lot of repetition. It's a very dark and brooding kind of game, whereas Nightshade has, really pretty blue skies and really nice use of color.
Very cool.
So that's the game. I would suggest anyone who is into action games check it out. These composers, Yutaka Minobe, started off with Sonic Adventure doing sound effects. Kind of stuck with Sonic series, doing most of the Advance series, and also did the music for Skies of Arcadia on the Dreamcast. Their latest game came out in 2020, and that was Space Channel 5 VR Kinda Funky Newsflash, which we played on a more recent live show.
Yeah, we did a VR episode.
Keiichi Sugiyama started off with The Typing in the Dead in 2000 as a sound designer, then did sound effects for Skies of Arcadia, did composition for Daytona USA on the Dreamcast, and also created some sounds on Rez. Most recent game they came out with was Ender Lilies, Quietest of the Nights, doing sound effects in 2021. Tomonori Sawada began their career with Sonic 2, the sequel, in 1992. They did games like Pro Striker and Pro Striker Perfect in 1993. They were on the Sega sound team doing stuff like Sonic & Knuckles, Sonic 3, Panzer Dragoon. They did sound effects. A lot of Panzer Dragoon. Did almost all the Panzer Dragoon games. The final game that they worked on was Sakura Wars in 2020. That's the more recent Sakura Wars game that came out. They did sound effects. And last but not least, Fumi Kumatani. Started off with Nights into Dreams, doing composition on the Saturn in 96. And then did a composition on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Phantasy Star Online. They did sound creation. They did the music soundtrack for Shinobi prior to this 2002 game. And just kind of bounce around doing Sonic stuff and Phantasy Star stuff. Final game that they worked on was Sonic Colors in 2010, where they were credited as the composer.
Nice.
Yep. And so now we can take a call from our Patreon hotline, which is coming in.
Oh, hey, look at that. Janine, why don't you go ahead and send that on over?
XVGM Radio, who is this and what do you want to hear?
Oh, crap. Sorry, I thought I was going to be on hold longer. Hey guys, this is Cam Worma. I'm calling to request a track from Maximo versus the Army of Zin from the PlayStation 2. The track is called First Strike. It's the first level. Probably the first time I've requested a Tommy Tallarico track. I don't know why that's weird, but it is somehow.
Yeah, no, we definitely do that for you. So let's go ahead and this is going to be Maximo versus the Army of Zin. This is a PS2 game that came out in 2003. The track is The First Strike, and it was composed by Tommy Tallarico.
fellas, ladies, and everyone in between. It's your old pal Maximo. You know, from the Maximo PlayStation 2 games. Are you tired of doing your partner's laundry only to see unsightly stains? Ugh. No, honey, I swear that's blood from where the sword-wielding skeleton poked me from behind. Yeah, that's it. Of course it's not you-know-what. Yeah, of course. I get it. It was. But don't let them know that, eh? Well, today's your lucky day, because at Maximo's Undies, you never have to wonder who soiled what or how they did it, because everyone's wearing boxers. Yes, my patented boxers are fit so perfectly on any bum, you'll never know who did the deed. Toilet seat accidentally sprayed some wee where it shouldn't have? Number 2 during Doctor Who? Food poisoning from Ninja Pizza again? It's all covered. Just wash the underwear together, and it doesn't matter who did what because everyone wears the same boxers. Now, you can get different designs in 2 pair, of course. Just make sure you color coordinate so nobody knows what happened. Get your Maximo undies with either tiny swords, death coins, or my personal favorite, little hearts. Act now and we'll throw in a bonus set of the golden undies for free with any purchase over 50 zenny. Call the number you see on the screen today. Sorry, no shipping to Utah. No CODs.
All right, welcome back, XVGM listeners. That was Cam Worma's pick, Maximo versus the Army of Zin, from 2003 on the PS2. The track was The First Strike. It was composed by Tommy Tallarico. I will say, Cam actually had a little bit more to say about this, so we asked him to stay on the line. Cam, you want to go ahead and tell people what you have to say?
So the first Maximo is a game I got pretty early on after I got a PS2. I loved it immediately. I wasn't really expecting to. It looked a lot like a lot of the other games that had been around at the time, but something about it intrigued me, so I got it. And after playing several games on the PS2 prior to that one, I was sort of not really digging the difficulty level of a lot of games. I felt like there was a lot of hand-holding, a lot of tutorials, a lot of things made easy. And I wasn't really liking how that era of gaming was sort of going. So Maximo was refreshing because it was extremely hard. You have to earn everything. You know, you have to earn your lives. You don't have unlimited lives. You don't have unlimited continues. You gotta really work at that. If you want to be able to continue after you run out of lives, you gotta put a lot of work in. So that was cool. The second game was way better, and I feel like nobody talked about it. Came out, you know, it was in magazines. I don't recall anybody I knew talking about it. And since, in the years after, I've never had a conversation with someone about this game. So it's very much an overlooked gem. Very, very, very much worth playing. Really fun, funny, amazing boss battles. The soundtrack is great. It has a real Danny Elfman feel to me. I could definitely imagine hearing this song and lots of the other ones on the soundtrack in one of the Tim Burton Batman movies, or in a Simpsons Treehouse of Terror episode, or something like that. The sound design in general in these games is awesome. I haven't played either of these games in years, but I can hear that strange, almost vocal sound effect for the coins. When you collect the coins, it almost sounds like a sort of like a ghostly chorus of human voices saying the word coin, but it also kind of doesn't. I was never really able to tell if that was what's actually going on. Some really, really cool sound effects in the game. Just a very enjoyable sound all around in this game. Anyway, I hope somebody hears this and thinks, you know what, I've never played that, I'm gonna play it. I recommend them both, but the second one especially. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the track, and you're enjoying things in general, and you're playing some good games, listening to some good tunes, some rock and roll songs, as Marilyn Manson would say. Is he still around? I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, thanks, bye!
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, thanks. That was a loving testimonial, and a really cool track, I gotta say. I was not familiar with the Maximo games, and so I was looking some stuff up while we were listening. I did not realize that these were offshoots of the Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins series.
Yes. Yeah. Spin-off.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So kind of like takes, I'd say like a spiritual successor kind of vibe to it. I mean, I always knew about the Maximo games. I remember my biggest issue with it was there were parts of the game that reminded me of Gauntlet in the sense that you could like warp accidentally to another level way in advance. And then you're like, oh, how do I get back? And that like annoyed me. So like, I remember the first time I played it, I was very much annoyed and did not want to continue because I was always for the most part have been a stage by stage loyalist. Like, I'm not going to play stage 5 before I play stage 2. Like, if I beat stage 1, I want to get to stage 2. I'm not jumping around to stage 5. Like, no, not doing that. So I since then have bought both games and bought both strategy guides to try to figure out how to play these games.
Nice.
Tommy Tallarico is really channeling his inner Danny Elfman. I agree.
100. I didn't pick it up until Cam said it, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, I can totally hear that."
La. Very Danny Elfman-esque.
Oh, yeah.
But I like it. Those horns are very bombastic and very booming.
Yeah. The song is very epic, and the one thing that really makes it for me is the inclusion of a hammer. It's a hammer hitting a sword on an anvil. You hit it and you let it bounce and then hit the anvil again. So you got like this ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that's awesome. I really enjoy that they put that in there.
Cool stuff. Maximo was supposed to get a third game, and Capcom was working on it, and apparently it just never happened. Like, it got to the very early planning and beginning stages, and then it just got folded. So, yeah. All right, we're moving from the PS2 exclusive to a PSP exclusive. This is Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles. This is the game that made me get a PSP. Straight up. Demon Seed is the name of the song. This is the arranged version of that original track. It's by Michiru Yamane, Masanori Akita, Yuichi Tsuchiya, Akihiro Honda, and Yasuhiro Ichihashi.
Welcome back! That was another Castlevania track from Dracula X Chronicles, the remake of Rondo of Blood, which was at the time an exclusive that only came out on the PC Engine, but they re-released the game, redid it completely in like a 2.5D kind of style with 3D sprites. PSP was the exclusive for that one, and it came out in 2007. It's still technically the exclusive. That remade version of Rondo only came out on the PSP. So that sucks, because it needs to be re-released. The Rondo and Symphony of the Night port that was also included in with this was re-released by Sony on PS4 under a title called Castlevania Requiem. That's basically the Dracula X Chronicles game minus the actual re-release of Rondo. It's just got the PC Engine version of the game that was included with that PSP version. So Dracula X is the name. I don't know why they called this Dracula X Chronicles. I'm assuming just because the American name of the port of Rondo of Blood to the Super NES is called Dracula X. Mm-hmm. No clue. But this has nothing to do with that. This is a remake of the original Rondo, and then they added in as additional unlockable bonuses Symphony of the Night and the original Rondo. The problem is that for Symphony, they redid all the voiceovers.
Yes, they did. They redid the English script because it's not just the voiceovers, it's the words on screen. I remember because I was so excited with this game. I got it. I unlocked Symphony of the Night, and then I immediately started playing Symphony of the Night, and then went, what the hell?
You didn't go, what is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets.
I mean, no. They changed the words, and I was like... I was so I played it anyway out of spite at that point.
Sure.
I was disappointed with that.
I think for the most part, and I don't want to say everyone, because I'm sure there are people that loved the redone version with the more serious voiceover roles that they included in that Symphony of the Night port. I can't stand it. It's terrible. I cannot play it. It's just... That original Symphony of the Night on the PS1 is so ingrained in my soul that to hear the voiceover redone like that, it's so inferior to the original PS1.
And then that is the version of Symphony of the Night that they released on PS4.
Yes, that in the Requiem package. But aside from that, the track itself for this Rondo remake that they did on the Dracula X Chronicles is great. But man, I love these jazz funk vibes that they're going with on this version. I just really like this. It's really stood out to me. And all of the music in the Rondo remake is really great.
I would agree. I definitely enjoyed the soundtrack when I was playing this game.
So we got a lot of composers to get through real quick, so I'll touch on them briefly. Yasuhiro Ishibashi started off with Survival Kids in 1999. I believe that was a Game Boy Color game. Then I'm just going to pick two more games. They did Enthusia, Professional Racing in 2005, which is a car game. They were the one that did the car sound engineering. And they did sound direction on Harmony of Despair, which has a great soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
They also did Order of Ecclesia, too. Akihiro Honda. Lots of Konami stuff, starting off with Beatmania Game Boy Gotcha Mix 2. They did the soundtrack. Then they started off composing on Zone of Enders in 2001. They did a lot of Metal Gear stuff, but their final composition that they did was on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which came out in 2018. Yuichi Tsuchiya started off with poppin' music for Appendisc in 2000 as the composer. They worked on a couple more poppin' music games, and then did some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. These were the ones for the 2003 show, but the games. Mm-hmm. And then the most recent game, they arranged some music for Final Fantasy VII Remake in 2020. Masanori Akita started off with International Superstar Soccer 99, and then did Lunar Nights in 2006, which was a Hideo Kojima game. And most recently, they arranged music for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And we already talked about Michiru Yamane, so we don't need to discuss her.
All right. Well, moving into my final pick of the episode, we are going into a game from a series that I bought a bunch of these because I was very much into the Bleach anime for a while until the manga ended and I didn't like the ending, so I just kind of threw my hands in the air. But the game series is called Heat the Soul. So this is the first one, Bleach Heat the Soul, came out in 2005 for the PSP. The track is called Stage 4, and the composer company on this was Base Escape Company Limited. All right, thank you for sticking around. That was from Bleach Heat the Soul, a 2005 PSP game. The track was just Stage 4, and the composer, I'm not sure the specific composer, but the soundtrack was done by Base Escape Co. Limited.
So there's a very good possibility it was Hitoshi Sekimoto.
Correct.
Yeah. That was great. I loved it. I love the funk vibes that was giving me. Really great, like, bounce to it. Loved it. Loved every part of it.
Good. Yeah, a lot of the soundtrack is kind of like this. The composer for the music in the anime Bleach is named Shiro Sagisu, and I feel like they were trying to emulate the style of what they did for the anime for these games, but kind of going off in their own direction. I mean, the anime has a lot of just straight up rock. There's a little bit of funk, but I kind of almost want to say like Motown. Like there's some of the vocals in some of the anime, the songs in the anime are very like 70s powerful female vocals that you might hear out of the 70s. And that's what it reminds me of. But there's a lot of other stuff, like animes always bring in, different artists for the opening theme, the closing theme, and Bleach went through a whole lot, like from some relatively like poppy stuff to some like rock stuff to some like hard rock stuff. But yeah, the soundtrack for these games very much kind of tried to emulate the rock and the funk and a lot of that stuff, and I thought they did a really good job with it.
These are fighting games, though.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So they're based off of the anime called Bleach. It's mostly sword fighting. Most of the characters are Soul Reapers, Shinagamis. They have, special swords that have, different powers. They transform, they do different things. There are some other types of characters that are not Soul Reapers. They're called Hollows and Arankars. They're like, evil spirits and stuff. And then there's also some characters that are just humans with special powers. There's a little bit of variety, but I mean, most people tend to be playing the characters that are the Soul Reapers in the game because they have just really cool sword abilities. But yeah, no, it's a fighting game, so you've got different combos, different abilities, different charges, different powered up abilities that you can do. And it was just a lot of fun. Like, I'm not always big into fighting games, but when they make a fighting game out of a show or a series that I'm really into, like I said, I was really big into Bleach for a really long time, so it was fun to be able to, play through some of the story arcs and just, in general, get to like harness the powers of the characters that I enjoy watching on my TV.
I was just looking this up, and there were 7 games in this franchise for Bleach Heat the Soul.
Yep.
And in the last game, you can play as 84 characters.
It's insane.
That's bananas. That's pretty wild. I have never seen Bleach. I know nothing about it. I was dating a girl who was watching it, and she was really into it back in like 2007, I want to say.
Right. Yep.
I remember it being big back then. I just didn't watch it. I didn't know anything about it, but it looked cool. Like the more like classic era anime of like the 80s and 90s is my bag, mixed with some of the later like darker stuff. But yeah, a lot of the shonen stuff I don't like. A lot of the franchises that are like this newer thing where they do with anime where they're like, let's put like a full sentence with a question as the name of the show, like, how do you pick up girls in a dungeon? Like those types of shows. I just have no interest in them.
Yeah.
It is what it is, I guess. But yeah, Bleach is looking pretty neat, and can't go wrong with bass escapes OSTs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to finish up with another PS2 exclusive. This is Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies. I found out about this one fairly recently, and it's pretty cool. This track is called Operation, and it's by Katsuro Tajima, Keiki Kobayashi, Hiroshi Okubo, and Tetsukazu Nakanishi. Hey everybody, welcome back to our PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable Thanksgiving Day Leftovers episode. This is what I'm calling it, I don't know.
Yeah, it works.
Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies was the name of the game that we just played. The song Operation came out on the PlayStation 2 in 2001. It's by Katsuro Tajima, Keiki Kobayashi, Hiroshi Okubo, and Tetsukazu Nakanishi. I found out about this game from my buddy Square Painter. He praised it left and right, said you should definitely pick it up, and I found it for like $5, so I said, hey, why not? So I picked it up. It is a more like a air combat simulation, but it's like Top Gun in the sense that it's got a story mode and everything. You're playing as a fighter pilot. You're going through 18 different story missions. There is a versus mode as well, but, you know, whatever. You could do air-to-air combat, ground attacks, and there's also escort missions as well. Your primary aircraft is like you get a machine gun, and then you get like these missiles that can lock on as well. I was really skeptical because this is not really generally my type of game, but I gotta say it's pretty fun. It really kind of reminds me of like a more serious, less arcadey version of like Afterburner 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you like Afterburner 2, this is more like flight simulation-esque.
Yeah.
In a way. So, pretty neat. I will say it's very challenging. And the plot is super depressing.
Awesome.
Like, there's this massive asteroid that breaks up in Earth's atmosphere, and it causes over 500,000 deaths within 2 weeks. And there's a neutral country called San Salvation that gets invaded by a group called the Federal Republic of Ursia. So they occupy it, and you play as this character whose parents were like murdered during the invasion. And so he kind of like joins the military and, you know, is trying to fight for vengeance. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much the plot without getting super, super into it. But yeah, the plot is super dark and super serious, but it's cool. Supposedly, the sound director, Tetsukazu Nakanishi, said that the game's music was designed to flow like a movie soundtrack.
Okay, I can see that.
This song in particular plays during like the loadout menu when like you're like learning about what your goal is, what the mission is.
Okay, yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. I was gonna say this track kind of sounded to me like a either like a mission briefing or like a stage select. So that tracks.
Yeah. It's got great reviews. Like it's a well-made game. I just think that it's definitely one of those things where if you're go into it with an understanding that it's a very dark plot with potential like triggers for people who are, you know, have issues with death and things like that. So what do you think about the tune?
The tune was pretty cool. Like I said, it reminded me of like a cutscene, a conversation cutscene, but like I hate to use the word cutscene because it always makes me think of like FMV. In my mind, this is more like Ace Attorney, Trauma Center. Like it's a cutscene where, you know, you've got a picture and then you're reading the text. It's not like an active FMV.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It reminded me of Ace Attorney. Absolutely. 100%.
And I mean, I love the music from that series too. So
for sure,
if you're evoking that in me, you've already got a foot in the door. But yeah, no, it was good. I didn't really catch anything that I could pull out as like, oh, I like the way they did this, or I like the specific thing. But I do like the overall feeling that the song had and what it evoked in me.
Cool. Katsuhiro Tajima started off at Splatterhouse in 1988. We love Katamari in 2005. So, you know, again, we started with Namco. And we're ending with Namco. Last game that they composed for was Daemon X Machina in 2019, which was a Switch exclusive, I believe, at the time. Tetsukazu Nakanishi, long list of audio credits, starting off with Tecmo Super Bowl in 93. So he started working for Tecmo, then left and worked for Namco, doing games like Klonoa Door to Phantomal in 97. I believe that they are considered one of the primary sound designers on the Ace Combat series. The latest game that they worked on as a technical sound designer was Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown in 2019. Hiroshi Okubo, again, another Namco composer, started off with Ridge Racer Revolution in 1995, did Mr. Driller in 2000. I believe that's the Dreamcast Mr. Driller game. Ace Combat Zero, the Belkin War, just lots of Ace Combat, Tekken, Ridge Racer. Latest game that they did was Ace Combat 7. Skies Unknown, they were one of the main composers on that. And Keiki Kobayashi started off with Tekken 4 in 2002 and continued working on games for the Ridge Racer series, Ace Combat series, and it looks like they jumped to ship to work on Street Fighter V for like a hot minute, and then jumped over to Nintendo to do stuff with Star Fox Zero. Latest game that they put out, they were credited for as an additional composer, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of our PS2 PlayStation Portable Split EP Thanksgiving Day Leftovers episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Justin, it's time for us to pick our favorite tracks. It's going to be difficult.
Remembering through the tracks that you played here, I think top of my list are your Ys 6 track and your Nightshade track, Skyscraper Tokyo.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm having a little bit of trouble picking between the two. They're both high energy and they were both really engaging.
Of your picks, I got to give it up for that Bleach track. That was great. Loved every
saved the best
second
for
of it.
last on that one.
For mine, it's tough, man. I loved everything I played, but I will say that Nightshade kind of droned on a bit. Puzzle Guzzle was really good. I did really like Puzzle Guzzle, but I think I'm going to go with my Castlevania track, Demon Seed Arranged. I don't know. I'm in a jazz funk vibe.
Yeah. No,
so, but I would say if I had to pick a secondary of my own, Puzzle Guzzle. That was cool. Ys is kind of a no-brainer. It's of course it's great.
Yeah, I'm not big into the Ys series, mostly just because I haven't played them and I haven't really had the wherewithal to. So anytime you play something from them, I mean, it kind of is a no-brainer, but it's always just like, oh man, this is a really good track. And eventually one day I'll learn and I'll be like, yeah, no, it's Ys, it's good.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I'm still at the point where like, oh man, yeah, it's a really good track. So
Right. Just as a reminder, everybody, before we get to the end of show stuff, episode 100 is right around the corner. Send us your tracks. It's a listener request episode. You do not have to be a Patreon member. Send it over to xvgmradio@gmail.com, and in the subject title, put episode 100 listener picks.
Yes, please.
And also, we are still running the contest for episode 100's title card or thumbnail. If you want more information, hit us up. It's a chance for you to win $200. We're going to showcase it in the YouTube version of episode 100. So please send us some art so that we can showcase it.
Yes, thank you. So, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Alex Messenger, Cam Worma, Jordan and Anson Davis, Rage Cage, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Scott McElhone, Chris Myers, Brad Austin, Chris Murray, Llama Adam, Marcus Stewart, Scott Brackett, Nick Davis, and Ryan McPherson.
If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGM Radio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
If you like what you've heard, please consider giving us a review on iTunes.
You can join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at www.facebook.com/groups/XVGM Radio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks or just talking about the podcast itself.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both those sites is @XVGM Radio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links in the show notes.
Coming up next, episode 96. We're coming back in a few weeks, and we're going to be talking to a composer.
Ooh, yeah. We're going to be chatting with Norin Rad, a.k.a. Matt Creamer, a.k.a. Daddy Cream Sauce, a.k.a. No, I'm just making stuff up now.
HP Puffin stuff.
HP Puffin stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be talking specifically about a game that he did called Slayin' 2.
It's got a great soundtrack. I think you guys are really going to dig it. And the game is a lot of fun too, so definitely pick it up in preparation for the episode. We can't wait to have Matt back on the show. He was on our Shakedown Hawaii episode way back in the day. So we're bringing him back.
We had him on a Patreon episode a while ago, too, I think.
We did. Yes, that's right. So, in a few weeks, come back to XVGM Radio. This is Mike.
And Justin.
Signing off. Hey, girl, it's your boy. No. Hey, girl, it's your boy. You end up meeting up with this guy, Ronaldo Gandolfini. Or no.
It's funny because that's the way I read it, too. So
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say that it reminded me of is Ace Ventura. It's Ace Ventura. It reminded me of Ace Ventura Pet Detective. Wow. Okay, let me redo that.